Welcome to Health 2660. Here, we don't just talk about health, we tell the stories that heal. Now, please listen to the story. The morning sun, a pale apricot smear across the horizon, painted the walls of Elderwood assisted living with a soft, forgiving light. Inside, nestled in her favorite armchair, sat Eleanor Ainsworth, a woman whose age was etched not in wrinkles of sorrow, but in lines of hard-won wisdom and resilient grace. Her hands, gnarled like ancient oak branches, held a well-worn copy of 100 Years of Solitude, a testament to her lifelong love affair with stories. But today, the book lay forgotten in her lap. Her gaze was fixed on a vibrant green fruit resting on a small table beside her, an avocado. Eleanor, at 82, was a staunch believer in the power of knowledge. She devoured information like a hummingbird sips nectar, always seeking to understand the world and her place within it. And lately, her focus had been on nutrition, specifically, the oft-touted benefits of this peculiar pear-shaped fruit. She'd seen articles, heard snippets on the radio, and even witnessed the younger residents of Elderwood enthusiastically spreading avocado on their toast. But a seed of doubt, a tiny pebble of apprehension, had taken root in her mind. Was this superfood truly all it was cracked up to be? And more importantly, was it safe for someone her age, someone with a history of complications? Her complications weren't medical, not in the traditional sense. They were historical. A complicated past buried deep beneath layers of time and carefully constructed normalcy. A past that threatened to resurface with the most innocuous of triggers. Like an avocado. She picked up the fruit, its skin cool and smooth against her wrinkled palm. It felt alien. Foreign. A stark contrast to the familiar apples and pears she'd grown up with in rural England. This avocado, a symbol of modern health and trendy cuisine, represented everything she had tried to leave behind. Eleanor closed her eyes, and the scent of the avocado transported her back. Not to her childhood, but to a different life altogether, to Colombia. To the humid air, the vibrant colors, the intoxicating rhythm of salsa music that pulsed through the streets of Cartagena. She was not Eleanor Ainsworth then. She was Elena de la Vega, a young woman full of fire and passion, caught in the crosshairs of a political conflict that threatened to consume her family. Her father, a wealthy landowner, had been a vocal critic of the corrupt government. Their hacienda, nestled in the lush hills overlooking the city, was a haven of beauty and prosperity, but also a target. Elena remembered the day the soldiers came. The sound of their boots crunching on the gravel driveway, the glint of steel in the harsh sunlight, the fear that choked the air like a poisonous gas. She was only 17. But she knew, with a chilling certainty, that her life would never be the same. They took her father away, accusing him of subversive activities. They ransacked the house, tearing apart her mother's carefully curated flower arrangements, smashing antique furniture, and stealing anything of value. Elena watched, her heart pounding in her chest, as her world crumbled around her. Her mother, a woman of delicate constitution, never recovered from the shock. She withered away like a forgotten rose, her spirit broken by the injustice and the loss of her husband. Elena was left alone, to fend for herself in a world that had suddenly turned hostile. She had no money, no connections, and no one to turn to, except for Ricardo. Ricardo was her childhood friend, the son of the hacienda's foreman. He was strong, loyal, and deeply in love with Elena. He had always been there for her, a constant presence in her life, a source of comfort and support. But now, their relationship was different. It was no longer a simple friendship. It was a bond forged in the fires of adversity, a desperate clinging to hope in the face of despair. Ricardo helped Elena escape Cartagena. He knew people who could smuggle her out of the country. He arranged for her to board a cargo ship bound for England, a ship carrying avocados. Elena remembered the smell of the avocados in the hold, a sweet earthy aroma that mingled with the salty tang of the sea. It was a suffocating smell, a constant reminder of what she had lost, her family, her home, her country. She was a refugee, a stranger in a strange land, with nothing but the clothes on her back and a heart full of grief. In England, she changed her name. She became Eleanor Ainsworth, a quiet, unassuming woman who lived a simple life. She worked as a librarian surrounded by books, by stories that offered her an escape from her own reality. She never spoke of her past, never revealed her true identity. She buried Elena de la Vega deep inside herself, hoping that she would never resurface. But the avocado had awakened her. It had opened a door to a world she had tried to forget. Eleanor opened her eyes, the memories still swirling around her like a dense fog. She looked at the avocado again, and she saw not a trendy superfood, but a symbol of her past, a reminder of her pain. She knew she couldn't ignore it any longer. She had to confront her history, to come to terms with the choices she had made. She had to find a way to reconcile Eleanor Ainsworth with Elena de la Vega. She decided to start with research. Not just about the nutritional benefits of avocados, but about Colombia. About the political situation that had forced her to flee. About her father. She spent hours in the Elderwood Library, poring over books and articles, searching for clues, for answers. She learned that her father had been posthumously exonerated, his name cleared of all charges. The corrupt government had been overthrown, replaced by a more democratic regime. Colombia was changing, evolving. It was no longer the country she had left behind. But what about Ricardo? Was he still alive? Did he ever think of her? She found a website dedicated to reuniting Colombian refugees with their families. She hesitated for a long time before submitting her information, afraid of what she might find. Days turned into weeks, and she began to lose hope. Then, one morning, she received an email. It was from a woman in Cartagena. She claimed to be Ricardo's daughter. Ricardo was still alive, but he was ill. He had been asking about Elena for years. He wanted to see her before he died. Eleanor's heart skipped a beat. She didn't know what to do. Should she go back to Colombia? After all these years, could she face Ricardo again? Could she confront the ghosts of her past? She looked at the avocado on the table. It seemed to be mocking her, challenging her. She knew she had to go. She owed it to herself, to her father, to Ricardo. She booked a flight to Cartagena. The journey was long and arduous, but Eleanor barely noticed. She was too consumed by her thoughts, by her memories. As the plane descended, she looked out the window and saw the city spread out below her, a kaleidoscope of colors and sounds. It was both familiar and foreign, both comforting and terrifying. Stepping off the plane, the humid air enveloped her, bringing with it the scent of jasmine and mangoes. It was the scent of her childhood, the scent of home. Ricardo's daughter, Isabella, met her at the airport. She was a beautiful young woman, with Ricardo's eyes and Elena's smile. She embraced Eleanor warmly, welcoming her back to Colombia. They drove to Ricardo's house, a small modest dwelling in a quiet neighborhood. As they approached the house, Eleanor's heart began to pound in her chest. She took a deep breath and prepared herself for the encounter. Ricardo was lying in bed, pale and frail. But when he saw Eleanor, his eyes lit up. He reached out his hand and she took it. His grip was weak, but his gaze was strong. They looked at each other for a long time without saying a word. Then Ricardo spoke. "Elena," he whispered, "you came back." Eleanor nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I came back, Ricardo." They spent the next few days talking, reminiscing about the past, sharing their stories. Ricardo told Eleanor about his life after she left. He had married, had children, had built a successful business, but he had never forgotten her. He had always loved her. Eleanor told Ricardo about her life in England, about her work as a librarian, about her quiet, uneventful existence. She confessed that she had never stopped thinking about him. They talked about her parents and how difficult life had been for them both. They found solace in one another's shared past and unspoken regrets. They laughed, they cried, they held each other close. One evening, as the sun was setting, Ricardo asked Eleanor to tell him a story. He loved her stories, especially the ones about Colombian folklore. Eleanor smiled and began to tell him the legend of El Dorado, the lost city of gold. As she spoke, Ricardo's eyes closed. When she finished the story, she looked at him. He was sleeping peacefully. He never woke up. Eleanor stayed in Colombia for a few more weeks, helping Isabella with the funeral arrangements. She grieved for Ricardo, for her lost youth, for the life she could have had. But she also felt a sense of closure, a sense of peace. She had come to terms with her past. She had reconciled Eleanor Ainsworth with Elena de la Vega. Before she left Colombia, Eleanor visited her family's hacienda. It had been restored to its former glory, a testament to the resilience of the Colombian people. She walked through the gardens, remembering her mother's flowers, her father's laughter. She felt their presence all around her, their love enveloping her like a warm embrace. She knew that they would always be with her, no matter where she went. When Eleanor returned to Elderwood, she was a changed woman. She was no longer the quiet, unassuming librarian. She was Elena de la Vega Ainsworth, a woman who had lived a full and complex life, a woman who had survived hardship and loss, a woman who had found love and forgiveness. She still ate avocados, but now they no longer triggered painful memories. They were simply a healthy and delicious part of her diet. And when people asked her about her life, she didn't hesitate to tell them her story. She had nothing to hide. She was proud of who she was, of where she had come from. She was finally home, not just in Elderwood, but within herself. One day, a new resident arrived at Elderwood. His name was Mr. Ramirez, and he was from Colombia. Eleanor noticed him sitting alone in the dining room, looking lost and confused. She approached him and introduced herself. They began to talk, and Eleanor soon discovered that Mr. Ramirez was also a refugee. He had fled Colombia years ago, escaping the violence and the poverty. He had never been back. Eleanor listened to his story, her heart filled with empathy. She knew what it was like to be a stranger in a strange land. She offered him her friendship, her support. She told him her story, hoping to inspire him, to give him hope. Mr. Ramirez was moved by Eleanor's words. He realized that he was not alone. He had found a kindred spirit, someone who understood his pain, someone who cared. Eleanor and Mr. Ramirez became close friends. They spent hours talking, sharing their experiences, supporting each other. They organized a Colombian cultural night at Elderwood, showcasing the music, the dance, and the food of their homeland. It was a huge success. The residents of Elderwood learned about Colombia, about its history, its culture, its people. They developed a newfound appreciation for the diversity of the world. Eleanor realized that her purpose in life was not just to live, but to share her story, to connect with others, to make a difference. She became an advocate for refugees, speaking out against injustice, promoting understanding and compassion. She used her voice to amplify the voices of those who were marginalized and oppressed. She inspired others to do the same. Eleanor Ainsworth, the quiet librarian, had become a force for good in the world, and it all started with an avocado. Years passed, and Eleanor continued to live a full and meaningful life at Elderwood. She remained active, engaged, and passionate about her causes. She traveled the world, speaking at conferences, attending rallies, meeting with world leaders. She received numerous awards and accolades for her humanitarian work. But the greatest reward, she said, was the knowledge that she had made a positive impact on the lives of others. One sunny afternoon, as she sat in her favorite armchair, reading 100 Years of Solitude, Eleanor felt a sudden wave of peace wash over her. She closed her eyes and smiled. She had lived a long and remarkable life. She had loved, she had lost, she had learned. She had found her purpose, and she had fulfilled it. She was ready to go. And as she drifted off to sleep, she dreamt of Colombia. She dreamt of her family, of Ricardo, of the avocado that had changed her life forever. She dreamt of a world where everyone was treated with dignity and respect, where everyone had the opportunity to live a full and meaningful life. It was a beautiful dream. And when she woke up, she knew that she had to keep fighting for it until her very last breath. Because that was the legacy of Eleanor Ainsworth, the legacy of Elena de la Vega, the legacy of the avocado. But the avocado story didn't end there. After Eleanor's passing at the age of 95, leaving behind a legacy of kindness and unyielding spirit, a box of her belongings was discovered in the attic of Elderwood. Among the carefully preserved letters, photographs, and mementos was a small leather-bound journal. Its pages, filled with Eleanor's elegant script, recounted her life in Colombia, her escape, and her reunion with Ricardo. However, interspersed between these entries were detailed notes about avocados, their cultivation, their nutritional properties, and their historical significance. It was a fascinating blend of personal narrative and scientific curiosity. One particular entry caught the eye of Isabella, Ricardo's daughter, who had come to Elderwood to collect the journal. It was a hand-drawn map showing the location of a hidden grove of rare avocado trees in the Colombian highlands. According to Eleanor's notes, these trees produced avocados with exceptional health benefits, far surpassing those of commercially grown varieties. Eleanor believed that the fruit from these trees held the key to longevity and disease prevention. Intrigued, Isabella shared the journal with a team of researchers at a local university in Cartagena. The researchers were skeptical at first, but the detailed information in Eleanor's notes convinced them to investigate. They organized an expedition to the location indicated on the map, braving the rugged terrain and dense jungle. After weeks of searching, they finally found it, a secluded grove of ancient avocado trees. Unlike anything they had ever seen before, the fruit from these trees was indeed extraordinary. Preliminary analysis revealed that it contained unusually high levels of antioxidants, vitamins, and essential fatty acids. Further research showed that the avocado's unique composition had potent anti-inflammatory and anti-cancer properties. The researchers were astonished by their discovery. Eleanor's hunch had been right all along. These rare avocados held the potential to revolutionize healthcare. News of the discovery spread quickly, attracting the attention of scientists, doctors, and entrepreneurs from around the world. The grove of avocado trees became a protected site, and efforts were launched to cultivate the rare variety on a larger scale. The avocados were hailed as a miracle fruit, and demand skyrocketed. A new industry emerged in Colombia, creating jobs and boosting the local economy. But the most significant impact was on people's health. Studies showed that regular consumption of the rare avocados could significantly reduce the risk of heart disease, stroke, and cancer. People who ate the avocados reported increased energy levels, improved cognitive function, and a greater sense of well-being. One sunny afternoon, as she sat in her favorite armchair, reading 100 Years of Solitude, Eleanor felt a sudden wave of peace wash over her. She closed her eyes and smiled. She had lived a long and remarkable life. She had loved, she had lost, she had learned. She had found her purpose and she had fulfilled it. She was ready to go. And as she drifted off to sleep, she dreamt of Colombia. She dreamt of her family, of Ricardo, of the avocado that had changed her life forever. She dreamt of a world where everyone was treated with dignity and respect, where everyone had the opportunity to live a full and meaningful life. It was a beautiful dream. And when she woke up, she knew that she had to keep fighting for it until her very last breath. Because that was the legacy of Eleanor Ainsworth, the legacy of Elena de la Vega, the legacy of the avocado. Eleanor remained at Elderwood, living out her years in peace, surrounded by books, friends, and quiet purpose. She continued sharing her story with anyone who asked not to be praised, but to remind others that healing often begins with honesty. For her, the avocado became not a miracle, but a marker of memory of where she came from, what she endured, and how she kept going. And when she passed away at the age of 95, Her story lived on quietly in the hearts of those who knew her, not as legend, but as truth. Health 2660 thanks you for listening. We'll see you in the next video, and until then, be kind to yourself.